Hey y'all, it's Diana again, and welcome back to a new installment of Woman Once Removed, my life story. Well, last time that I talked to you about my girlfriends that I had in my youth that I lost because I was trans, and I kind of touched bases about when I was working in a wig salon in the mall, and I was going to beauty school, and that was actually some of, here I go with actually again. I like that word, I guess. But that was some of the happiest times of my life, my youth. It was carefree and young, and I was living with my parents and going to beauty school, and I was working in the mall, and I had lots of friends in the mall, and I enjoyed working on wigs and stuff, and that's when I learned to really appreciate wigs, because, you know, I was styling them, and we had to wear them, and so I learned to really enjoy wigs then. But back to the beauty school. After my friend got caught by her mother. Now, I didn't go into a lot of detail about that. She was separated from her husband and was not divorced. So she was having to be really careful about that. And so like 2 days after all this came out, her and her boyfriend moved to Texas because her mother and everybody was threatening to have the little girl taken away from her. So they moved to Texas. I think, I'm not really sure, but I think that he was from Texas and had family there. So she called me up and said, we're leaving, and I'll get back with you as soon as I can, as soon as we get settled and everything. She was having to do it to be able to keep her little girl. And as soon as she got settled, she contacted me, and we were pen pals for a number of years. And when all of this was over and she was divorced and married this young man and they had a couple of kids, they moved back to the Kannapolis area, and I got to see her again a couple of times. But I wasn't living there then, so, you know, our lives just kind of went in separate directions, but at least we did keep in contact. It wasn't like we just got, you know, pulled apart and not able to see each other again. But while I was going to beauty school, there was this girl that came in, and I knew who she was immediately. Her name was Darlene. She was a beautiful young lesbian girl that I had known in Charlotte. I had known her since the first time I ever moved to Charlotte and started going to the gay bars. Darlene was beautiful. She was real young at the time that I first met her. And she had broken up with the girl she had gone with in Charlotte and had met somebody in the area where I was. And she decided she wanted to go to beauty school. So I met her then, and we just got to be really close. And come to find out, she was going with a girl that I went to school with. Her name was Deborah. And so I would go over and visit them at their house. And I got back in touch with Kasey King. Now, Kasey King was a black girl that I went to school with. She was a trans. And I have a story about that when we were in high school. We were sitting in the bleachers at South Rowan High School. I wasn't sitting near Miss Kasey. Miss Kasey was a very, very, very feminine young girl. She was tiny and had such a woman look about her without anything, you know. She was just so womanly. And of course, people would pick on her. And I remember a day, I was sitting off from her with some other friends, and people was picking on her. And she says, "Why don't you just leave me alone and go pick on that one over there?" Talking about me. I'll never forget that as long as I live. But then I've told y'all about my first time going into a gay bar, JB's during a Valentine's dance, and meeting some trans girls there. Kasey was there that night. And so we've been friends all these years. And so I got reacquainted with Kasey that day, and we started hanging out again. And then she started going to beauty school with me. She wanted to do hair. And we would have the best time. We would go off. On the weekends, we would go to the movies and go out shopping and stuff and go out to eat. And I remember one time we went to Carolina Mall to the movie. They had a midnight showing of Rocky Horror Picture Show. We just had some nice, clean fun. And one time she even came out and visited at the farm, and we just had a nice time. But I had to contend with a very racist father who, after she left, he said, "That's okay. You bringing a gal over here, but if you ever bring a buck back here," talking about a black guy, "then you have to get yourself away from over here and don't come back." Well, I knew how my daddy was. I wouldn't have ever done anything like that anyway. You know, I didn't bring men back there, white or black, to do anything with. Something I never did. I had respect for my folks, you know. But that's when I got to really be close with Kasey. The last time I saw Miss Kasey was when I was going through North Carolina on my way to doing some Granny Mae shows. And I stopped in Charlotte and went to Scorpio's Lounge where Miss Kasey was performing. So we got to spend some good time together then and took some pictures. And we actually had plans to do a show that following weekend. But I had to wind up staying over where I was, and my time with my travels back home, I had to, you know, go. So I didn't get to do that show with her. So that's the last time I got to see her. But, you know, we've been in contact since then, and I hope that we'll get to see each other again sooner or later. Hey, Miss Kasey, I love you. And I remember, girl, when we was hanging out at Mr. Deborah's house, and you knew who come in, her good-looking brother. We both had the hearts for him, but moi got to date him. That was one of my crazy times. I dated this boy, and he had no idea who I was. We dated for a good long time until somebody spilled the beans. He was a boy that would call me up and pick me up and take me out on a date. He treated me nice, hold my hand, kiss me, but he never tried to have sex with me. He was treating me with respect, and that's what I needed then. And then he found out. And the thing about when he found out, he still wanted to go out with me, not really in a romantic way once he actually knew who I was. But he wanted to take me off and show me off at the clubs in Charlotte. Because I was attractive and he was proud. And he had pictures of me that he had hanging up in his locker at work. And he told me he wasn't taking those pictures down because I was beautiful. So that was the closest I ever got. And this was a boy that picked on me when I was in school. He was one of those that called me bad names. So I got to do some of my fantasy anyway. But that was because of you, Miss Kasey. I blame all that on you, girl. Fine. But at that mall, I just had a blast that year that I was living here. When you're young, things just seem to take place at a faster rate, you know. It's just like so much went on in that year that I was living there and going to beauty school and working there. I had met this guy that, oh, cut this, I'm fucking up. Really, you need to cut this down. But when I was working at the wig salon, the girl that got told that I was a sex change and said, who gives a fuck? We were good friends. She was the manager there. Her name was Shelley. And one day, she said, this guy that I've known all my life, and I've had a crush on all these years, and he just got out of prison. And I'd like for you to ride with me to go and meet him for the first time, you know, because it's awkward. Well, when we got there and the guy come in, she had no idea how awkward it was fixing to get. Because this was a guy that I had went with. He left my house the night that he got arrested and went to prison. And as soon as he recognized me, it was like he was playing footsie with me under the table the whole time. As soon as she went to the bathroom, of course, he had to hug me and kiss me and tell me how, you know, he thought he'd never see me again. So we started having a relationship. And it made me feel bad because I had a great friendship with Shelley. And I hated to do something like this to her, but hey, he and I had a past too. And I tried not to have anything to do with him. I tried to let that work its way before I had anything to do with him. And I did wait until she finally told me that it just didn't look like it was going to work out between them. But I have an idea that it was because he was wanting to get with me. It's the reason he didn't get, you know, to work out. And so he and I started seeing each other. And he actually moved to the Kannapolis area so that we could be close and see each other. And we were actually together, actually. I love this word, actually. We were together the day that Princess Diana and Prince Charles got married. We both stayed out of work that day so we could sit and watch the wedding. So that will give you an idea of when this took place. And we just had the best time, but he became very jealous and possessive. The car. And, you know, I had things going on. You know, I was living with my parents. And I was going to be... I had everything that was serious with my life. And, you know, it just seemed to get worse and worse. And I tried to stop seeing him. And the night that I met my second husband, and I've told a story about how the people in the mall, the guy that worked in the tuxedo shop, and the girl who worked in the cosmetic department at Belk's, and a couple other ones in the mall were going out to 2001 VIP, which was a disco in Charlotte. And they wanted me to go, and I went with them. And I actually had to break up with the guy that night so that I could go because he was just so possessive. He didn't want me to go anywhere. And that's when I met my second husband. So there was a lot of things that went on, there's some exciting things that went on in my youth. And I had a good time. I had a really good time with my young days. And that mall was something else. So, that's all I'll talk about tonight. Bye-bye.